Okay, so we're always like super fascinated by, the possibility of life beyond Earth, right? And
Yeah.
it seems like everyone's got Mars on the brain.
Right.
But what if I told you there's this moon, right, out there orbiting Jupiter? That might be even more like promising when it comes to searching for life.
Yeah, we're talking about Europa, and it's a really interesting candidate in the search for life beyond Earth. I mean, while Mars, may have had water in the past, Europa is like actively showing evidence of a massive ocean right now, but it's buried beneath its icy shell.
And it's not just like a little puddle of water.
Yeah.
I was reading that Europa's ocean could actually have more water than all the oceans on Earth, like put together.
Yeah, that's right. It's a huge amount of water. And you know what they say? Where there's water.
There could be life.
Exactly, exactly. But you know what's even more interesting is that Jupiter's gravity, right? It's so strong that it creates these tidal forces that actually stretch and squeeze Europa.
So it's like kind of like a cosmic stress ball.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah. And all that squeezing, it creates friction, which actually generates a lot of heat inside Europa.
Oh, wow.
And scientists believe that it's this heat, along with the moon's internal activity, that actually keeps the ocean in a liquid state. And that's something that really sets Europa apart from, like our own moon or even other icy moons that we see out there in the solar system.
Okay, so we've got like this potentially warm, hidden ocean on a moon that's basically getting a constant workout thanks to Jupiter's gravity. So how do we even start to investigate
But
this?
that's where NASA's Europa Clipper mission comes in, right?
All right.
It's this incredibly ambitious project that's actually set to launch pretty soon. They're going to send a spacecraft that's about the size of a basketball court to go check out Europa up close.
A basketball court.
Yeah.
Wow, that is huge. What's on this spacecraft that's going to like help us unlock Europa's secrets?
So it's carrying a whole bunch of cool instruments, right? For example, like high-resolution cameras that'll map the surface in incredible detail. We're talking being able to see features just a few meters across.
Wow.
And it's not just about pretty pictures, although those are always a plus, but these images are really going to help scientists to study the geology of Europa, looking for those signs of active geological processes. Like maybe we'll finally get to see those ice volcanoes.
Oh, and wouldn't that be evidence of the internal heat that we were just talking about?
Exactly, exactly. Another, very important instrument that they have on board is a thermal imaging system,
Okay.
which is essentially going to act like a giant heat sensor, right?
Right.
Scanning Europa's surface for hot spots, and that might be a telltale sign of where that ocean is closer to the surface, or maybe where there's a lot more volcanic activity going on.
So it's kind of like when you use a thermal camera to find like the warm spots in a cold room, but like on a completely different scale.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
So we got these cameras, we got these heat sensors. What else?
One of the most exciting instruments is the spectrometer. Now, I know that sounds like a very complicated word, but essentially what it does is it analyzes light.
Okay, so break it down for me. How does analyzing light tell us about a moon that's literally billions of miles away?
Okay, so different elements and molecules, they emit and absorb light at very specific wavelengths, right?
Okay.
So by looking at the light that's reflected from Europa's surface or from its atmosphere, or even from those plumes that might be erupting from the ocean, the spectrometer can actually tell us what it's made of.
Wow.
We're talking about potentially being able to detect what are known as organic molecules, and these are basically the building blocks of life, at least as we know it.
So if we find those, does that mean that there's definitely life on Europa?
Well, it's not quite as simple as that, unfortunately. I mean, don't get me wrong, finding organic molecules would be super exciting, but it's not like 100% confirmation.
Yeah.
It would tell us that at least the basic ingredients for life are there, but to actually confirm the presence of life, we'd have to, dig a little deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense. But this is still, this is huge, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We're talking about a mission that could actually help us answer the question of, are we alone in the universe?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, that's why missions like Europa Clipper are so important. It's like our generation's chance to really push the boundaries of our understanding and potentially answer one of humanity's biggest questions. It really is like one of those things that makes you realize how much is out there, And we could be on the verge of actually discovering if there's life beyond Earth.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, but you know me, I got to ask, how long until we get some of those answers? Is Europa Clipper going to, beam back results in real time?
Well, not exactly. It's not quite that simple.
Okay.
You got to remember, Europa is way out there in the Jupiter system, right?
Right.
It literally takes light from the sun over 40 minutes just to reach Europa.
Ah, okay, yeah, the vastness of space, right?
Right. Even at the speed of light, we're talking about a pretty significant delay.
Right.
So yeah, communication is going to be, a little bit slow, we'll say.
Okay.
And on top of that, the spacecraft will be, doing its thing, gathering all this data over several years, circling Europa, mapping different parts, trying to, if we're lucky, catch some of those plumes.
Right.
It's not like landing a rover on Mars where you're getting like this constant stream of data back.
Okay, got it. So it's more of a waiting game.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's say, hypothetically, we do find like some kind of evidence, that really points toward the possibility of life.
Right.
What would that mean for us back here on Earth? Like, how big of a deal would that be?
I mean, that's like the million-dollar question, right? If we discover that life actually started, that it arose independently on both Earth and Europa,
Right.
it would totally change like everything we thought we knew
Yeah.
about, how common life is in the universe.
Right. So it becomes less of like, are we alone, and more of a question of like, who else is out there?
Exactly. And then, of course, the next step is even more exciting, right? Because then you want to know, well, like, what are these life forms like? What kind of, specific adaptations did they have to develop to exist in this environment that's so different from ours?
Right.
Is it similar to life on Earth? Or is it something totally alien, something we can't even imagine?
And just thinking about that ocean, right? Like, what would life even look like down there? Because, sunlight's not reaching those depths.
Right.
It's a whole other world down there.
It really is, and it's fun to imagine, right? Like maybe there are bioluminescent creatures lighting up this dark ocean, or,
Right.
or we've got those hydrothermal vents on Earth.
Right.
Maybe there are life forms that have figured out how to get energy from those, kind of like we see in the deepest parts of our own oceans.
Yeah. So just to clarify for our listeners, hydrothermal vents.
Let's
We're
hear.
talking about like those underwater geysers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And they release heat and chemicals from the interior, from Europa's interior, out into the ocean. And I mean, think about it, on Earth, those vents support these incredible ecosystems even without any sunlight.
Wow.
So, it's not crazy to think that similar environments on Europa could be these like little oases for life.
That's incredible. Although I do remember reading that the surface of Europa is like super harsh, right? Doesn't it have something to do with like radiation and stuff?
Yeah, that's true. Jupiter does bombard Europa with quite a bit of radiation, and that is definitely like a challenge for life, especially on the surface.
Right.
But you got to remember that thick ice shell we've been talking about.
Right.
That acts as a pretty good shield. It's protecting the ocean below.
Okay.
So it's totally possible that life could be thriving down there without ever even being exposed to that like harsh radiation that's up on the surface.
So it's like the same thing that makes Europa so hard to study, all that ice, is potentially the very thing that's like protecting life.
Exactly. It's this weird paradox, right?
Yeah.
It makes the whole prospect of exploring Europa's ocean even more exciting,
Yeah, okay, I'm totally with you there, but I gotta ask, let's be real for a second. Europa Clipper's not gonna, like, drill through all that ice, right?
Yeah.
So how do we even get to that ocean and see what's really going on down there?
Right. So Europa Clipper, it's really just the first step, right? It's about laying the groundwork, and then, hopefully future missions, they're already being discussed, that will take it a step further.
Okay.
Like imagine robotic probes or even like a submarine.
What?
Yeah, something specifically designed to, withstand that pressure and navigate this like completely alien ocean.
Okay, now that is some, like, next-level sci-fi stuff right there.
Oh, no.
Like sending a submarine to another world? Sending a submarine to another world, that's like almost too crazy to think about.
It really shows you how far we've come, though, right? We're talking about like stuff that used to be pure science fiction, and now it's like actually on the table. Like this is something we could actually do.
It's wild. Okay, so even if we don't, dive right into the ocean, like what are some of the key things that you're hoping Europa Clipper will like reveal about this moon?
Well, first things first, I think we need like a way better picture of the ice shell itself, you know?
Right.
Like, how thick is it really in different places? Are there areas where it's thinner than others?
Mhm.
Maybe even places where, like, stuff from the ocean can kind of, like, escape
Oh,
upwards.
so like those plumes we were talking about.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Like, if Europa Clipper gets lucky and it's in the right place at the right time and it actually flies through one of those plumes,
Right.
that'd be amazing. That would be like getting a direct sample of the ocean without having to drill through all that ice.
It's like a free sample, but like, for science.
Exactly. And, by analyzing that, like, what's it made of? What's the chemistry? That would tell us so much. And then, just from studying the surface, like how it looks, all the geology,
Yeah.
we can start to understand, like, how active Europa really is.
So like how likely is it that we're actually going to see those ice volcanoes erupting? And like, how much mixing is going on between the ocean and the surface?
Exactly, exactly. And that's really important because the more geologically active Europa is, the more likely it is that the ocean is going to be warmer,
Right.
more energetic. And like that could be really good news for the possibility of life.
Right, right. This is making me think about like the whole search for life beyond Earth in a totally different way.
Yeah,
It's not just about, finding another planet that's like exactly like ours.
right.
It's about being open to all these other possibilities, right? Like life could exist in so many different ways in places we never would have even thought to look.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
And I think Europa is like the perfect example of that, right? It's like it's challenging our assumptions.
Yeah.
For the longest time, we've been so focused on planets in the what they call the Goldilocks zone, right?
Right, right. Not too hot, not too cold.
Yeah, like just right. Gotta be like Earth, gotta be in that sweet spot.
Right.
But Europa's like, hold on a second. I'm way out here in the cold depths of the solar system, far from the sun,
Right.
and I might have life too.
It really makes you realize like how much we don't know, right?
Absolutely.
Like our little corner of the galaxy, it could be just one of like countless pockets of life out there.
Exactly.
And the fact that like right now, we're about to send a spacecraft the size of a basketball court
I know, it's incredible.
to go and like try to unravel these mysteries, it's incredible.
It really is. It's a pretty amazing time to be, working in this field, that's for sure.
Right. I don't know about you, but I am so ready for some like major aha moments from this mission.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And, who knows, maybe someday, not too far in the future, we'll be talking about, actually sending that submarine down to Europa's ocean.
Well, that's a deep dive for another day.
I like it. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining me on this like incredible journey to Europa.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun.
It's a moon with more secrets than we can even imagine, but, thanks to missions like Europa Clipper, it feels like we're finally like on the verge of unlocking them.
Yeah, we're getting closer.
So until next time, everyone, keep looking up and, never stop asking those big questions.